Hello, welcome. Today I'm going to go through a quick tutorial on how to launch a serverless image analysis system utilizing Amazon AWS resources to do that. The kind of high-level overview of that will be an end user will submit images to us via email, so image attachments. Our infrastructure will analyze that image, use artificial intelligence to identify objects in that image, and then reply those results back to the end user as an email. So in a little more detail of what actually that will encompass from an AWS perspective, essentially we'll have the end user. They will send an email to us, as we mentioned here, with an attachment. That will go to SES, or Simple Email Service, which is an Amazon service. That system has a system of hooks that we'll leverage. So when it receives an email, it's going to immediately store the raw email in S3. Then it will trigger a Lambda function. That Lambda function will pull the email down, the raw email, extract the image, decode that image, and then send that image to the AWS recognition service. And that has what's called a detect labels endpoint, and that's that artificial intelligence that can identify objects. The result of that analysis will be returned to the Lambda function. The Lambda function will then package that result into the construction of an email and reply that back to the end user. So, to accomplish all of that, we need to build all that out, and it's really just two steps. So we can do this in no time at all. Step one is to configure our domain we're going to use for this service in SES, and that's done in the console. The next step is to build out all of this infrastructure, and luckily we have a CloudFormation template, which will vastly simplify that for this tutorial. Essentially, it's a click and go. We'll just supply a couple parameters, and then after everything is built, there's just a couple enablement steps we'll take in the console for SES. And then at that point we'll be done, and so then we'll be able to test the service and see that image recognition happen. Okay, on to step one, or at the SES portion of this. And again, at this point, we need to do two things. We need to prove ownership of domain, and then also insert the MX records, the mail records, into DNS so that mail will start shipping to SES. And AWS will help us with the content of those, so we don't have to know the details of that. So if we head over to the management console, again, if you drop in here for the first time, you'll probably see something like this. We're working with domains here, so we go ahead and head over there. One thing to call out here is that SES is region specific, so choose a region to use this tutorial in. If you do in your account happen to leverage SES in a given region, say you do leverage it in Oregon, just choose an alternate region to run this tutorial, so then you know you're not going to conflict with anything you have in production. So in this case, we'll use US East 1, or otherwise known as North Virginia. You can see here that I have a domain already verified. You would come in here and this list would be empty, but you would just click this Verify New Domain, and we'll just pick good old example.com. You can ignore DKIM for this. We don't utilize that for this tutorial. And click Verify. From there, a dialog will open which has, again, the text record DNS that will prove ownership of the domain, and then the MX record, which will start routing email to SES for the domain. And you can download those as a CSV, or just sort of copy paste them into your DNS, your registrar. So we close that. That domain again, until you insert those two records in DNS, will show up pending. Once you do insert those records, AWS will pull momentarily for those records. Once it finds them, you'll shift into this verified portion. And when you are at verified, you're essentially done with this step. You've proved ownership of the domain, and now you have email being routed to SNS due to that MX record. One quick thing to call out, though, is if you do happen to use a domain that you purchased through Route 53 or you've transferred to Route 53, that dialog box will open like this, and with this nice magic Use Route 53 button, and that will essentially auto-insert these records into DNS. Since DNS is owned in the same account, ownership is implied, so it can go ahead and auto-insert those. So it makes it a little quicker, a little more automated, but again, not required that it be a Route 53 domain. So at that point, again, when you're back to this verified status, you're done with this step 1. So we're on to step 2. Now, step 2 is essentially building out all of this infrastructure. Again, we mentioned. And again, we're going to use CloudFormation for that, which will make things vastly simpler for this tutorial. The CloudFormation template that I'm using, I do have this in GitHub, so you're free to go out to that under Sam Keen, and it's ID this is the name of the repo. So you can see that template here. It's a decent size, but part of the reason of that is that the Lambda function literal code is actually in this template. It's of a appropriate size to where you can just sort of embed it in there. It's a nice way to quickly start with the Lambda function. So back to the tutorial. To initiate this process, we just click this nice launch stack button, and that's going to take you into the console. One quick note is on region. Ensure we use the same region we had in the SES configuration. We use the same region to launch this stack. That's a requirement. The stack name, anything you choose. It's just a sort of a label, so feel free to change that if you like. The SES domain is, again, that domain we just used for the SES console. So here I'm going to choose, let's see, over here, the one I'm actually using is idthis.net. So I will put in idthis.net. Then this box here, you can, if you're building on a new SES deployment, you can ignore this box. This box is for, again, some of the advanced users that may have SES already running. You can just reply the rule set name, or actually insert the rule set name of an existing rule set. Since we're new, we leave this blank. This template will actually create a default rule set for us. Last thing to do is to acknowledge that this template will create IAM resources. To know better what the implications of that are, just click this Learn More link, but you'll often see this. So now we're off and running. So here we're on the detail view for this CloudFormation stack, and it always starts out create in progress. Has the events tab open. This page from time to time will auto refresh on its own, but we can preempt that just by clicking refresh on the browser. And we'll start to see these events rolling in. And we'll, as for certain resources, so here is the SES rule set. The construction of that has completed, so we see that complete. But overall, we're still creating progress. Go ahead and refresh again. See how much further we get. So now we see other resources. Our S3 bucket has been created. The policy of access to the bucket is being created. And again, this is that bucket that will store the raw email. Click refresh one more time. Again, I guess we're getting close. A few more SES rules are going into place. And CloudFormation, a great feature of CloudFormation is all the logic of what order to build resources in is all built in. So you don't have to worry about that for the most part. It's a nice feature of it. And I bet if I refresh one more time, we'll probably be done. And we are. So now the entire stack is at create complete. And we see, that last key statement here. So at this point, everything is complete. There is, I mentioned earlier, that there's a couple manual enablements we need to do in SES. When CloudFormation creates, again, that rule and the rule set, they are disabled by default, just sort of a safety measure. So to help with tracking down where to go in the console to enable those, we've used the stack outputs to kind of give us quick links into that. So again, it's the rule set and the rule we need to enable. So here is the rule, and we have our quick link here, so we're just going to follow that. And so we're in the, again, we're over in SES, and we're in rule sets, but we're looking at a rule. So very tiny checkbox here, we can click enable on that, and then just quickly save that. Close that tab out. So now the rule set, we need to activate that. So again, we have this quick link. So I'm going to click that. And okay, we're back in rule sets, but now we're at the rule set level, not the rule level. So we can just click there and then set as active rule set. Let's do that. And so now we have it listed in the active rule sets section. And that is it. Here's some notes on doing that, but just follow those quick links and you'll be there in no time. So now we're ready to go. The system essentially is up and running. All the infrastructure is in place. It's ready to receive emails. There's one more caveat though. Again, this is a good thing, a safety measure on AWS's part. So whenever we're dealing with email or the ability to send email, you have to worry about spammers. We all love them. So as an effort to sort of mitigate that, whenever you bring up an SES, a new configuration and region in AWS, it comes up in what's called sandbox mode. And you can read more details if you follow this link. But essentially, you're in a mode where you're not allowed to just send email to anyone from your SES. So for testing, though, of course, you can opt in email addresses sort of manually to prove that that address is willing to accept email from you. So these will be your testing email addresses. When you get out of testing, of course, if you follow this link, it'll give you the details of how to get out of sandbox mode. You just go through a small vetting process, and then that will allow you to distribute email, still in a responsible manner, but it allows you to send it out to whomever you need to. So to do this sort of opt-in process, we would just go over to SES. There'll be a section called email addresses, and we just need to verify a new email address. And let's just say this is bob@example.com. Click this, and this is the common workflow where this is going to send an email to bob@example.com explaining the context, and there'll be a opt-in link in that email that you'll click. You go to a web page and it says, congratulations, you're opted in to this service. So again, go to Bob's inbox, click that link. This verification status will change from pending to verified. And so that allows this SES configuration to send email to Bob while it is in sandbox mode. So now, wow, we're done, we're ready. So aside from a live example, I've just captured some screenshots here of what that would look like. So again, because we chose to submit images via email, it's kind of a low-tech version, but it allows us to support really any client, any operating system that has an email client, which, that's a pretty vast landscape, so we can quickly get up and running. So here's a screenshot of an Android phone, my Android phone. We have gone into the image gallery, picked an image, happens to be one of my cats. We click the share button, share by email. That opens my email client with the image embedded. We send we're going to send this image to pick at, and again, this is that domain name that you've chosen to configure in SES. For me, it was ID this.net. So you would use that. Of course, it'd be from you. This email has to be one of those opted-in email addresses. Don't need a subject, don't need any copy, just the image. You would then click the send button. Then in about 60 seconds, again, that image is going to go through that workflow we showed at the top, go through SES to S3 to Lambda to recognition, and then back out to you. So you'll receive a response email from no reply, and it'll essentially have the results of that analysis. So, and also the percent next to those. So the confidence level, sorry, is what I should say. So recognition looked at this. It's pretty sure it's an Abyssinian, an animal, of course. It's pretty sure it's a cat, which of course makes it a mammal. Pet, not sure, I guess it sees it in what looks like a household setting, so it thinks pet. Kitten, and kitten is where it starts to drop off, where true, our cat is young, but he's getting out of, or she's getting out of the kitten stage, so that's probably appropriate. So that's the extent of it. Again, any client, you can send email to the system. It could be your desktop, it could be your phone, and you'll get this analysis back. So if there are any issues, if that email doesn't come, you can take a look in the Lambda logs. Again, that's where most of the processing is going on. At least it's going through the code that you wrote. So that's a good chance that's where the bug might be. So if we look at, again, the CloudFormation template, the stack outputs, we've helped you again with some of those links that directly take you to some of this. So we'll follow this one for the logs. That will take you into Lambda function we just created, and the log stream for that. So if you say send an image, didn't come back, you could filter down to 5 minutes, say, or 30 seconds and look for errors. You can also search freeform for errors to get a better sense of what's going on. There's also a link to the Lambda function and also to the S3. Well, the S3 bucket name is listed here, so that other detail is there. So, congratulations. In just a few moments, you've built up a fully functional system that supports email images. You've got artificial intelligence doing analysis on those images. So quite impressive to be able to do that. And it's sort of a serverless mindset, or serverless paradigm. So SES, again, is going to auto-scale to within its configured limits. Those are soft limits, so you can raise those as the need arises. Essentially, you can say you'll never run out of space in S3, essentially for what you can do. It's considered infinite, extremely durable to 11 nines of durability on that. And then Lambda it's perfectly what they call elastic, so you are only paying for the compute of the actual events sent to it from S3 or from SES, sorry. So if you're not receiving any emails, you're not being charged for any Lambda processing. And the free tier on Lambda is quite accommodating, so you can run some decent POCs without incurring any costs there. So from here, next steps could easily be further leveraging further recognition analysis features. So it can do other things like facial recognition, OCR, character recognition, all those sorts of things. And again, we mentioned we used email as the transmission protocol. So you could change that. You could write a small app and use other channels for getting images to the service. Sky's the limit there, essentially. So I won't cover it here, but cleanup. Again, we used CloudFormation, so you can just go here. We're looking at the template, other actions, delete stack. You can do that. If we did that right now, it would fail. There's a couple items that CloudFormation will not be able to delete on its own. That being the rule set, you need to deactivate that. So you can follow this link and do that. And then the S3 bucket, it cannot delete a non-empty S3 bucket. So the template's actually configured to not even attempt that. So you'll need to, again, on the outputs is the bucket name, this entire name here. So then you would head over to S3, locate that bucket, select it, and then click delete bucket. At that point, then you can go back into the stack detail, other actions, delete, and it will all fail away. And no worries if you choose this, you forget about those other items and the delete fails, just come back, do these 2 items, and then run the delete again, and it will all go away. So thank you very much for taking the time listening to me on this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful. Please feel free to head over to the blog post and give feedback. And I know I'm excited about all the artificial intelligence services of Amazon. This is just my first investigation of those, so looking forward to diving into others, and I hope you are also.